My name is Kramer, and I'm taking interpersonal communication at Lone Star College. For this week, week 6, we are focusing on conflict styles. Our professor has given us 5 scenarios that we need to create a win-win situation for everybody involved. Now, according to the professor as well as Carrie Floyd, this is a collaborating style which is very difficult to accomplish. In most situations, finding a win-win situation where nobody has to give up anything is very difficult to accomplish. But for the purposes of this assignment, we'll go ahead and attempt that. In scenario 1, Pat wants to vacation in the mountains and Kris wants to vacation at the beach. My recommendation in this situation is to choose a location that has both the beach and the mountains very close by. An example would be going to Big Sur in California or perhaps Hawaii. In scenario 2, Pat just got a bonus of $3,000 and Kris thinks that they should focus on getting a computer for their business, but Pat wants to use the money to take a much needed vacation. My recommendation for a win-win situation is to consider buying the computer as well as taking a vacation. Most computers cost under $1,000 that accomplish probably most of the tasks that they need for their business. Especially if they get a desktop computer, they'll probably spend about $1,000 or less, which leaves $2,000 left over for them to take that vacation. Perhaps they can go to Big Sur, where they can have both the beach and the mountains. In the third scenario, Pat walks around the house naked all the time, and Kris doesn't like this and wishes that Pat would cover up at least when guests come over. Now, I believe that Kris's position sounds pretty fair. However, to give them both a win-win situation, perhaps they could have Pat can go to another room where Pat can be naked, but guests can come over. Or perhaps Kris can entice Pat to keep Pat's clothes on when guests come over by maybe offering to take Pat to a nudist resort when they have their next vacation. And if they go to Big Sur, there are definitely some nudist resorts around there that they can go to. Now, the fourth example is a lot more serious. In this situation, Phillip has just come out as gay to his very religious parents, and the parents want Phillip to go see a counselor. Now, to create a win-win situation here, perhaps Phillip can agree to see a counselor, but it needs to be a counselor of Phillip's choosing. And even if Phillip doesn't feel that anything is wrong about coming out as gay to his parents, perhaps he can use the counseling because coming out as gay to your parents, especially if they're reluctant, can be a very turbulent situation, and perhaps the counselor can give some perspective and advice on dealing with the situation for Phillip. In the fifth scenario, workers at a bottling plant make 20% less money than workers at a similar plant that is about 100 miles away. They've repeatedly asked management to raise their salaries, but management is not willing to do this. Now, I think this is probably the most difficult situation to try to create a true win-win for everyone involved. This was definitely a scenario that was very common where I came from in the San Francisco Bay Area, where the San Francisco Bay Area is in a very expensive place to live, yet about 100 miles away, the Central Valley is about half the cost, at least as far as housing is concerned. So salaries definitely can be different even within the same company. But to try to create a situation that's as close to a win-win as possible for this scenario, I would recommend that since the workers have already tried to raise their salaries with management several times, perhaps they might want to choose a different tactic of something that is maybe close to appealing as a salary raise. Perhaps they can try to negotiate having more vacation days, or perhaps be able to negotiate reduced work hours or maybe more flexible shifts. There's lots of different things that they can try to negotiate that are not necessarily directly tied to monetary rewards and incentives. So this concludes week 6 of my video confessional.